Hey, I'm straight up off the block, hopped in the phone and pushed the top back. I've been hustling for a long time and I can't stop that. Big like I'm Nick, best believe it, and them all back. Yeah, I be ballin' all the time, I'm point guard and a quarterback.
Welcome to another Sports and Culture interview. I'm going to introduce my guest momentarily. But before I do, this is another one of our Arkansas 101 Spotlight interviews where we like to view every one of the athletes that we can in the Arkansas area, giving them a spotlight, letting you know about their backstory and what they're doing outside in the community. Of course, this is sponsored by Hyman, the electrical supply guy. For all your electrical and plumbing needs, make sure you contact Corey today at 479-301-8220 or email him at chyman@andersonnp, so that's andersonnep.com. And I want to go ahead and introduce my guest today, Steve Conley, former Arkansas great, now over Conley Fitness. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And we were just talking about the weather down there, how a little bit cold it is. You guys, have you got any snow yet, or is that coming up?
Yeah, we actually got some snow last week, but it kind of cooled off. It kind of warmed up a little bit today, but it was kind of bad the last 2 days.
Yeah, I guess as long as it's not looking like Buffalo.
No, we're nowhere near Buffalo. Nowhere near Buffalo.
Well, let's go ahead and get right into it. And those who want to comment can jump into our chat room. We'll definitely display your questions and see if we can get everything out. And thank you, everybody who's tuning in on Facebook or Twitter. Let's go ahead and kick everything off, Mr. Conley. Yes, sir.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, cool. I know your brother was an elite athlete growing up, just watching some of your interviews. Was that who inspired you the most to get into sports?
Yes, I would say him and as well as my parents. It's a 10-year difference between my older brother Mike, and growing up, he played 3 sports, which was football, basketball, and track. Through high school as well as grammar school, and me following his coattails. I felt like I had to do 3 sports as well growing up, and seeing how successful he was helped me realize I had a little athletic ability in myself as well.
Yeah, and I always like to ask athletes, especially that plays multiple sports. Yours was basketball, track, and football.
Yes.
Out of the 3, which was probably the hardest to condition for?
It depends which coach it depends what season you're talking about. If you're talking about when I was a kid, it was track. I had one of the greatest track coaches of all time, Willie Wright, former Olympian, God rest his soul, also a Chicago great. Growing up, teaching me the rigors of track and field, between 8 and 10 years old. Once I got to high school and midway through college, it was definitely basketball. But once I got full into football, football was hardest by far once you start going into two-a-days and things of that nature.
And so when you were younger, playing these multiple sports, which out of the 3 did you feel like that was going to be your dream job growing up, that you wanted to be growing up?
I actually thought it was going to be basketball. I always dreamed to be an Olympian because I was following my brother Mike. But things came. I enjoyed basketball the most out of all 3 sports. And, growing up in Chicago, I was fresh in the Michael Jordan era, when the Chicago Bulls were transforming before they started winning the championship. So everybody wanted to be like Mike. So I had 2 Mikes I was looking at. So everybody thought they could be Jordan. And the game of basketball was a big thing in Chicago, whether it was at your school or on the playground. And I showed a lot of ability in it until I got to high school and started playing football. And it actually took some other college coaches noticing me playing high school football to realize that I actually that could be actually my best sport.
Now, you mentioned that your brother was an Olympic athlete, 3-time gold medalist. Is that correct?
No, he's a 3-time Olympian.
3-time Olympian. Okay.
He's a 2-time medalist. So he did win a silver in '84 in Los Angeles, and he was a gold medal in '92 in Barcelona, and he did make the '96 Olympics as well.
Now I know big brothers always, toy with the little brothers. Did he used to hold that over your head, being an
Oh
Olympian?
yeah, he tortured me actually as a kid. I think he knew I was going to be bigger than him, so I guess he was trying to put me at a place at a young age. But it didn't deter me from wanting me to be like him, from an athletic standpoint. And I learned a lot from him growing up, as well as like I said, my parents. I can't give them enough credit for taking me where I needed to go. Whether it was to follow him while he was doing his thing, to my track meets, to my basketball AAU events, as well as my football events. So I gotta give my parents a lot of credit as well.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm too from Chicago, and I tell a lot of people all the time. There's so many people in the streets of Chicago, which I looked at and was like, man, that's an NBA player. But a lot of them, of course, didn't make it because they were caught up in the streets. Was it similar to you, like that, growing up playing outside in the park?
It could have been. I grew up playing over at Robichaud Park and Abbott Park and over on 63rd Street, and I'm playing with a lot of Chicago greats that you may know about. But it's amazing where you got to go home to once you leave the park. I was fortunate enough to go home to a structured house. Like I said, my parents, Alex and Laura Conley, have been married for over 67 years to this date. I got to throw that out there.
Oh, that's
You
incredible.
just don't hear about that enough. They just had their 67th wedding anniversary, so I got to give them props with that. And so I was fortunate enough to go home and be nurtured, for somebody to follow my dreams. At the same time, I remember playing on the playground with Jawan Howard.
Whoa.
He went. I don't necessarily know his family background, but at the same time, I know his street background, and I know he had way more temptations than I had, and and everybody know his success as a great college athlete, a great pro, and now a great coach, coaching at his dream, coaching at Michigan as well. So everybody has different roads to get there. It's just keeping your nose clean and believing what the good Lord gave you with your talents, and see how you can bless others with it.
Man, man, that's the story I wish I could tell my kids. I hoop with Jordan Howard. That
Mhm.
is that's something. Um, Hawk, definitely want to talk about that.
Mhm.
That Chicago background, and even the having the wonderful household that you came in with your mom and dad. Did that influence you a lot with starting Hawk?
Yeah. So I have a youth program called the Arkansas Hawks, which is actually an acronym for Hard at Work Kids. And actually was started. My brother actually started it with basketball first. And what made him start it here in Arkansas was he has a son, Mike Jr., who used to play with Memphis Grizzlies, who's now starring point guard for the Utah Jazz. He grew up with some great kids. So his AAU team, mind you, was Mike Conley Jr., Greg Oden, Eric Gordon, Daquan Cook, and
Wow.
I forgot the other one. It was anyway. All five starters were drafted in the first or second round of the NBA draft when it was time for them to leave college. That was his AAU, and the reason why he started the basketball scene of it, because he knew that he had all this talent in his backyard, but he wanted to expose it to the world. But he knew he needed more than Northwest Arkansas to get that out there, or more than Indiana, where they lived at a little bit, to get that out there, to expose these kids to show them how talented they were, as well as to get them against the best talent out there in the country. So it was the same way when I started youth football. It was, I mean, there's a lot of talent here in Northwest Arkansas in youth football. And I wanted to take these kids who come from homes who might not ever left their block to, whether go to Oklahoma to play against some kids, Texas, Kansas, to give these opportunities kids to play against better competition. And at the same time, to let them know that it's a bigger world outside of Northwest Arkansas that they need to explore. And I'm glad to say that I'm starting to see the fruits of my labor, as well as other coaches who helped me put this together, of kids who are now playing high school ball, who are starting to get D1 offers in football, as well as other sports that they play. And that kind of makes you feel good, and lets you know that your work is not going in vain.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, what is that feeling like when you see one of these kids go to high school or even graduate to come back to you, knowing that they went through your program of mentorship?
It makes you feel great because a lot of times I think one of the, I think a lot of times youth coaches get really overlooked, whether it's the,
Yeah.
as well as teachers as well. I'm not going to just say coach, they get overlooked. And it makes you feel great when a kid that you mentored comes back and tell you how much you influence them with their lives and feel like you put them on a path of going straight. I can tell you a story about my dad real quick if you have time.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
it's a gentleman who lives out. Actually, found out it was my cousin. He a distant cousin. He actually came and found my dad. Um, it was like 2 years ago, and told him that he saved his life. My dad took a family out of Chicago, didn't know him to run, drove him to Alabama, and he felt like if he never picked these kids, and this kid, I think he was like 7 or 8 or 9 at the time when he took the family to Alabama, dropped them off, came back. Needless to say, this young man has since married, got a beautiful wife. He has several sons. His son is one of the top football players in Georgia, and he credited his what my dad did for him is to set him on the right path, and as well as his family on the right path and future generations on the right path, just because he took time to bless him. So I feel like the seed that my dad put in other kids growing up fell over to myself, fell over to my brother, uh, and it feel like I think it's something that's innate in us to help people, young kids, to see the best that they can do, as well as help others when they get older as well.
Yeah, and speaking of your parents again, and looking at the success of yourself, your brother Mike Conley Jr. with the Utah Jazz, what does that say about the Conley name that you guys are some driven individuals?
I think it says a lot. I think it says a lot that it's we all have kids now. I think it's great that you can sit back and you can rest on your laurels. But it's even better when you look at your own kids. I have an older daughter who's doing great in business. I have a older son who's kind of following my footsteps in the football path. I have my middle son is he's talented in arts as well as athletics. My youngest son, his name is Steve, so he's 7. I'm not putting nothing over him. The sky's the limit for him. And then maybe my sister's kids are all talented and doing great things, and my brother kids are talented, doing all great things. And I put that all back into, I think, the seed and the energy that my parents put back into us. And it's just, I'm conscious of it, and I give God the glory for it. But I am conscious of that. And another thing, I can't take another step forward without saying how inspirational my wife Nikita has been in helping us guide me with the Hawks, as well as I guarantee you the Hawks would not be as successful if she wasn't a part of it with me. It's so much behind the scene work that she does with it that has helped bless these kids move forward.
Yeah, nothing like the wives. My
Um,
wife helps me tremendously.
yes.
She's actually my road photographer, so a lot of a lot of these photos we have up on Instagram, I wouldn't be able to get them up without her. So I definitely know
Same
that
here. If
feeling.
you go to my webpage, conleyfitness.com, she did my webpage, and she's my media background for my business as well. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, it is. Wives always playing that media role,
Yes.
but a huge role nevertheless.
Yes.
So I know we were talking about kind of kids giving these kids an opportunity to branch out to different cities and states that they never would have reached because of sports.
Mhm.
What is that like seeing them step outside of their comfort zone and viewing these other atmospheres and arenas, letting them know that there's life outside of Arkansas?
It's amazing. I remember we had a chance to play in Cowboy Stadium a few years back, and it was the Arkansas All Stars versus the Texas All Stars, an AAU Battle of the Border, and I took a 3 age group. I took 8U, 10U, and 12U to this tournament, and we performed very well. But to see these kids stand in Cowboy Stadium, much less see Razorback Stadium. Now you stand in the stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play, it's priceless. I think it's something to this day that I think I still to this day, and we're talking like 5 years ago, I still see kids to this day wearing sweatsuits that we gave them that day that don't fit them no more. It's totally tight, but they can't let go of that moment. It's not that the sweatsuit is that looks that good.
That's
I think
the
the
memory.
moment was that priceless to them. That's what they can't let go, and that makes me feel good. Not that they're wearing clothes that's too small for them, but that they can't let go of that moment.
That is awesome. Let's kind of get into your playing career.
Okay.
We were talking earlier that you stopped your basketball career to walk on for the Razorbacks for football.
Mm-hmm.
What all went into that decision?
Man, that was actually a real hard decision. So I was blessed my first year in Arkansas to play 3 sports and probably play under the 2 best coaches ever. You know, in the late great John McDonald, one of all-time winningest coaches in track and field, if not in NCAA championships, if not in United States history, as well as Coach Nolan Richardson, one of the greatest coaches to ever do it. So to be under those 2 and to have an opportunity to play with Coach Richardson, it was a hard task to actually go up to him and tell him that, hey, I want to walk on the football team. But the reason why I did it, and a lot of people don't know it, is because Coach Barry Alvarez, who used to be the AD of Wisconsin, who used to be the head coach at Wisconsin at the time, he recruited me for football. And he told me that I could be the next Al Toon, which was a great wide receiver for the Jets. And he spoke those words to me and basically said that, hey, you know you can go pro in football. Nobody has ever said that to me in basketball. Nobody said I can be an Olympian in track. These are just my own dreams. But I had an outsider, a guy who never knew me. He just saw me play and say, dude, I'm telling you, you can be a great NFL player. And it was his niche to get me to come to University of Wisconsin. I was about to go to Wisconsin. If they would allow me to play basketball there, I would have went to Wisconsin, but they weren't going to let me play basketball. So I ended up coming to Arkansas and doing track and basketball. But the whole time I'm playing basketball, all I'm thinking about is what Coach Alvarez said. Hey, you know you can go to the NFL. And the ironic thing was I didn't know if I could live with myself without knowing. So the main reason I actually walked on the football team was to see if I could do it. It wasn't because of the love of the sport, because I love basketball. But somebody spoke to me that said I can go to the NFL. And I wanted to see if I can do it. And I did it.
Wow. Memory-wise, by playing that many sports in Arkansas, do you have a favorite memory from your playing career? And it could be any sport.
Oh, yeah, I can tell you a couple of. I don't. Well, I'm not going to embarrass people by telling people I dunked on somebody. Oh, I can't tell you this.
Yeah,
I can tell you my
that.
Michael Jordan story. I can tell you I got a Michael Jordan story, and I'll tell you my college story first. So my best college memory was my senior year in '95. We was playing Mississippi State, and if we won that game, we made it we'll win the SEC West Division, and we'll go to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. It'd be the first time in Arkansas history if we do that. We end up winning the game, and in that particular game, I got 2 sacks and a safety. And it was a key moment in the game, putting those 2 points up because by doing that, Mississippi State couldn't win the game with a field goal. So the safety was huge, the sacks was huge, probably the biggest game of my career. And then once we won it, we got a chance to play in Atlanta for the SEC championship, and we won the West that year. And the funny thing was, we were picked last that year in the West. We were picked to come be last in the SEC West. So we went from worst to first, and that was our tagline for that year. Basketball was I had a chance to actually play against Michael Jordan in the All-Star game. So this was kind of cool. My brother got invited to play in Sun Devil Stadium in Arizona. Michael Jordan, the roommate, was hosting the All-Star game. And my brother invited me to go watch him play. So we get there, and I forgot which championship. They're coming off of a championship, one of their 6. And we're in the locker room. I remember it was Michael Jordan and Avery Johnson. They was picking the teams. And I'm up in here, and I'm just in awe. I wasn't even there to play. I was just in there just to see my brother playing it. Come to find out that me and Jordan were the two tallest people there. And they say, Mike, your brother want to play? Can he play? He's like, yeah, he'll play. I was like, oh, shoot, I get to play with Michael Jordan, right? So as they picking the teams, everybody's trying to be on Jordan team, right? And so they kind of split us up just because it went by almost by height. So I'm like, oh, crap. I got to play against Michael Jordan. I can't be on this team. So it went from me playing against Michael Jordan to sticking Michael Jordan.
Oh.
So I get the jump ball. So Jordan, I'm about to tip the ball, jump tip with Jordan. And mind you, I got a crazy vertical. I know Jordan could jump, but my vertical was like 40. I had a 42-inch vertical.
Oh yeah,
so it wasn't like I couldn't jump. So we're about to do the jump ball, and I say, hey Jordan, I said, how much you'll give me if you let me win this tip? He was like, son, it ain't how you start, it's how you finish. I was like, oh crap, he taking this serious. I said, oh crap. So anyway, the ref threw the ball up. I said, whatever, and I stole the tip. I was like, hey, I can say I won the tip anyway. Actually, had him having a good game until I pissed him off, and then he went off at the end. I actually, the first 3 quarters, I was holding my own, and then I said something. I ain't gonna tell you the game itself was. I had an incredible game for the first 3 quarters against him, and I got cocky. He was at the free throw line. Now, mind you, he's coming off the championship. He probably was half drunk, just celebrating, probably taking none of this serious. And he's at the top of the free throw line, right? And I'm playing off of him. And he looked at me like, hey, you going to give me this shot? I'm like, take it. Oh, dude, what'd I say that for? That was just dumb. I woke him up, whatever hangover he had, after he scored like the next 10 baskets. It was just Jordan. It was over after that. But it's a memory I'll never forget. And it was a great memory. Great, best basketball moment of my life.
Yeah, and that was kind of my follow-up question. If you got and saw that competitive spirit from Mike, because every story that you hear about Mike, you hear about that competitive drive.
Yes. And he actually brings it out of you. And that's the cool thing. Everybody talks about his spirit, but like I said, the he can bring it. I think that's what made the Bulls so great. And this is what I mean by that game. So mind you, I was doing pretty decent. I was in a post one time, and he just elbowed me into my back like real hard. Like, now mind you, I'm a football player. It didn't bother. It just pissed me off. I was like, hey, dude, I was like, hey, I know who you are, but it woke me up. And you hear about the stories about how competitive he was in practices and how he challenges. Maybe he might pick a fight with somebody just to get the best out of them. And I can see how great he was, as well as the late great Kobe Bryant. You hear about stories like that about him as well. And sometimes it takes to people to nudge them to get greatness out of them. And it was kind of cool. I got to say I got a chance to play with greatness that night.
Yeah, and you played linebacker position, correct?
Yep, linebacker and defensive end.
So let's go back into your playing days, but let's go inside the game for a second.
All right.
At that linebacker position, we're coming up to the line of scrimmage, ball about to be snapped. What are you looking for as a linebacker? What's going through your head before the ball is snapped and after it's snapped?
Yeah, I was classified as like a rush in, like a Lawrence Taylor type, where you play in the 3-4, where you was at that blitzing linebacker. Sometimes you drop in coverage. Because I was so fast, my knack was, it wasn't just my speed. It was actually, I had a real good knack of reading offensive linemen. So I can tell by their stance a lot of times whether it's run, it's pass, if they're tired, if they're pissed off, if they're about to just come off, if I can olay them. And a lot of times I would beat them off of leverage because I wasn't a real big guy in college, even in the pros. I mean, a lot of times I was outweighed by 50 or 60 pounds against the guy I was going against. But I would always read the old lineman in first. And I think a lot of that came from, I had some real good coaches position coaches at Arkansas, Coach Joe Payne and Coach Jim Washburn. Coach Washburn coached in the NFL for a while, who taught me a lot of how to read and study the game. So I think that definitely helped me in my college days, that I was able to take over in the pros as well.
All right. And now let's go to the night, draft night. Biggest night of anybody's career.
Yes.
Where were you what were going through your head. Walk us through that day, all the way up until you heard your name called by the
Yeah,
Pittsburgh Steelers.
it was a very humbling night. You would think it was the greatest night, which it was. It was a great night, but a very humbling night because I was told that I was going to be a late first round pick or early second round pick. Okay, and that was probably one of the longest days of my life waiting to get picked in the third round because it's a long process, a very, very, very long process for the draft. And so as the draft started, we was at my mom's house. I had all my friends, relatives, the whole block was at my mom's house, just waiting for my name to be called. First round go past, second, midway through the second. At this time, I'm nervous because after the third round, you got to wait till the next day if you don't get called during that time. So now I'm feeling embarrassed, like my name's not going to get called. So next thing I know, I'm just upstairs in my mom's room, away from everybody. My brother's up there with me, actually. My sister would come in there periodically to talk to me. And then the phone call, then my phone rang. And granted, we didn't have cell phones back then like they do now. So I got on the landline. So my mom's phone rang, and it was Coach Bill Carr. He said, "Steve, you been waiting long enough?" I said, "You think?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "How would you like to be a Pittsburgh Steeler?" And I said, "I would love to, sir." And then I said, "We're about to put your name in hat. We're about to draft you." I tell you, that was one of the best moments, not just getting drafted, but seeing the joy of a lot of people, of all the people who were there who put something into me, like we were talking about me pouring out into kids. There were so many people that was in my house that day that I looked at that was there who helped me get to that point. My parents and my siblings go without saying, but there are so many other people behind the scenes that helped with me. I can say I was blessed to grow up in a great family, not just my mom and dad, but aunties, cousins, and all of them was there. And I think the joy that I felt, I think they felt it 10 times more than I did. So that was a real special day.
Now, were there any particular teams who told you they were going to draft you in the
Yes,
first round?
and that's what was the crazy thing about it. The Seahawks told me that. So what I heard, the rumor was that I was going to go to the Seahawks. They actually called me. They wanted to send their news people wanted to send a camera to my house.
Oh, that would have
So
been.
I thought I was going to go first or second to the Seahawks. It goes past, they don't pick me up. So only to come to find out that the Steelers were going to draft me in the second round, but they passed over me because guess who came on the trade block right when they was going to pick me? Jerome Bettis. So instead of picking me, they traded for Jerome Bettis, which was a great pick for them. It was terrible for me because it took about $200,000 out of my pocket. Horrible for me.
Yeah, I'm
great
right
for the city of Pittsburgh. So they passed. So they told me, they said, "Man, we was about to pick you in the second pick." Jerome came on the block, and Bam was about to be, they was doing their thing with to get rid of Bam, and so they picked up Jerome, and they were hoping that I would still be there in the third round. And to their credit, that's why they're one of the best at drafting. The Rooney family is, and I was there, and they got me in the third round.
I talked to Levon Kirkland about this. He always talks about that fan base. Yeah, he's here in the upstate with me.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
My guy, great guy. What is that terrible towel crowd really like? What is that fan base like?
It's something that I thought Razorback fans were crazy, and Razorback fans are wild, crazy, passionate. Steeler fans are on another level because it's they're blue collar. Mm-hmm. I mean, in today's football, it's all about luxury seats. It's all about the entertainment of the game before the game. What are you going to do for me on the street afterwards? When you come to a Steeler game, it's all about the game at that time, and that's why they're one of the last stadiums to because they needed a stadium a long time ago. But the fan base was so rabid about and in love with their Steelers. It's just and you don't see that a lot when it's a college right there as well. They share the stadium with Pitt. It's right next door, so you got a college right there where you can put some of that energy into. but it's amazing. It's absolutely electrifying. And with the terrible towel, if you got time, I'm tell you this real quick story.
Oh, I'm good.
So this is when I knew the terrible towel was something serious. It actually had to do with, it had something to do with Pittsburgh was trying to get past its tax to get a new stadium, and Mr. Rooney asked me to come to the square of downtown Pittsburgh to help sell it to the fans. And I was up there, talking about it, of why we should, get the new stadium. And then was also trying to sell, talk about the playoff, because we was in I think it was my rookie year. We also about to go into the playoffs as well. So I was selling that to the fans as well as talking about the playoff game that we was about to get into. And then next thing I know is, I say, hey, I ended with something like, hey, we're going to be saying, here we go, Steelers. And next thing I know, I started waving my towel, and I couldn't see nobody. All I saw was yellow and black towels. And it was one of the most electrifying things that I have seen. And I was like, this is crazy that you got this whole downtown packed and everybody had a towel. Like who gave the memo for everybody to bring a towel? That's what I was thinking about. I expected a lot of people. I expected the fanfare. I didn't expect for everybody to have a towel.
Pittsburgh fans, man, they roll deep and they travel.
Yes.
I mean, we went to a Carolina-Pittsburgh game at Panther Stadium, and all you saw was black and yellow.
Yes, I mean it's quite incredible. That was one thing that I was thoroughly impressed with. I remember my first Monday night game. We played in Miami, which was surreal in its own right. Monday Night Football is incredible, and first time I got a chance playing in Miami, and to see that, I think half the fans were Dolphin fans and the other half were Steeler fans. I'm like, this is crazy. The only team that ever saw that was with at that time the 49ers fans were like that, and the Cowboys fans. And but though you take those organizations, it's kind of changed a little bit now, but Steeler fans are something crazy. And being from Chicago, my dream was always to get drafted by the Bears, and I thought that was a possibility, but that was actually a sad story with the Bears with me. You talking about depressing?
Oh man!
Oh my goodness!
I was gonna ask, what was your dream team to go to? Everybody.
Oh, my dream team. Believe it or not, my two dream teams was actually Chicago and Pittsburgh. I grew up a Chicago fan. I was always a fan of Mean Joe Green, who I got a chance to meet a few times, as well as Too Tall Jones, who played with the Cowboys. But I was, like every kid growing up, if you was a fan of defense, I was all about the 85 Bears and that 52 defense, man. I mean, the Richard Dents, the Mike Singletary, the Lawrence Taylors, and just the dream of being able to, the Walter Payton, he was an idol growing up, just like Jordan was. And to be able to play in Soldiers Field, that was always a dream of mine. And, in the back end of my career, it was kind of crazy. I thought I was about to pick me up. I went out there and had a tryout for them, and they told me they were going to pick me up. And said, hey, after this game, we're going to pick you up because I just got released by Carolina. And so I'm ready to go to Bears camp. And in a preseason game, regular season game, actually, the punter sprained his knee. He didn't blow it out. It would have been better if he blew it out because he would have been done for the season. I'm not wishing that he would have blew his knee out. But just because he sprained his knee, they didn't cut him. They waited. They had to bring in another punter in until he got, and that was my spot.
Oh man,
I was like, dude.
Yeah, that sucks.
And that actually happened to me. That same situation happened to me at Pittsburgh when I was on my back end with them as well. So it was like, fate was telling me, it's the reason why they call the NFL not for long.
Yeah.
But the experience, the time would have been great. I have no regrets about my time in NFL. I mean, the experiences, the people, the stories I can tell, I think that what I'm passing on to my boys, it will live a lifetime,
And as a Bears fan, kind of quickly, but what do you think about them going away from Soldier Field after being there for so long?
It's going to hurt. My parents currently live not too far from Soldier Field, and it's a talk. it's going to hurt to see. The city of Chicago. I pray for it daily with the violence and everything that's going on. I actually did a passionate post on Facebook last year that actually caught the attention of a few civil rights leaders that actually wanted to help bring me in and do something about it if possible. I think it's only going to hurt the city more than what it's already going through. Besides economically, it's going to hurt them. Just pride wise. I think the fan base is still the fan base, but it's going to be like taking the heart out of somebody to see the Bears playing somewhere else. I get it. I hope it's a way for it to work. Where I know they already got the land and the plans for it, but if there's some way to turn this around and keep them there, I'm hoping the mayor and the governor can make it happen.
Yeah, I was kind of devastated to hear the news. It's like moving Wrigley. Like certain places should never be touched.
It's just and just everything that the city has been through over the years. I think I think Chicago is actually, I think they found their quarterback. I think the fan base sees that there is a change happening within the organization. I think although we still ain't, which I don't understand why we can't beat Green Bay. But you can see Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. You can see that train is starting to slow down.
It's going downhill.
He's going downhill. He on his way out, and we got our train fuels is on his way up. And you can see the change in the guards happen. It hadn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. And for it not to actually happen, and we get back to where we need to be as a winning organization, talking about Chicago, it's going to be sad that they're not going to be physically in the city.
Gotcha. Now you're in your gym, Conley Fitness. So we definitely have to discuss that. What made you want to, you and your wife, start a gym in Arkansas?
Okay. I got a quote that I live by. And it's actually, if you ever come to Conley Fitness, it's on the wall. It says, if you want something you never had, you have to do something you have never done. And I have always wanted to train people. It's just a passion. Because I had a great strength coach named John Stuckey, God rest his soul, while I was at Arkansas, who instilled just the knowledge of fitness. And what he taught me, how he transformed my body, I thought it was amazing. Because when I came to Arkansas, I was only 160 pounds. I left, I was 225, and I just couldn't believe how he just transformed my body. So I was always wanting to do that for other people, outside of just myself. And then, I kept going, ended up getting like to 265. I was like, oh man, I had so much knowledge on how to help people transform their bodies. I always wanted my own facility. And then God blessed me with the opportunity to open up Conley Fitness. And then about a year into it, my wife was into the retail industry, and she wanted to come in and help me as well. And that was probably one of the best things to ever happen for her to be by my side doing. I wish she was actually here 24/7 when we first started doing this, because I probably wouldn't have made some of the bad decisions that I did on the front end that I'm not making now. But it's just a passion to help people. I mean, to answer your question, I went a long way to getting, but I think it's just a passion of help people. There are so many people struggling with so many, just things that can be preventative. And it makes you feel good to know that you got a hand of helping people get off of certain medications and helping people lose weight. We got this fitness challenge that we got going on here at Conley Fitness, this 6-week challenge that we're transferring lives. We're helping people eat better, gain weight, gain muscle if they're trying to do so, lose weight if they're trying to do that, get off of medications that the doctor said that they could never get off of. That's what I'm saying. A lot of times people say, hey, I can't afford a trainer, I can't afford a gym. Yeah, but you can afford your blood pressure medicine. Mm-hmm. You can afford going to getting these insulin shots all the time. You can afford all these things because your body is telling you what you think you can't do. I'm telling you what you can do. You come here as well as any other gym. I'm not going to just say Conley Fitness. I mean, because I'm all about people getting in shape and getting better in their lives. Find a trainer. There's so much more that God has blessed our body with that you don't have to depend on medications to find the healing that you need.
And for those that never worked out in the gym before or just worked out in general, what advice would you have for he or she to, I don't want to say get off your couch, but start working out and living a more healthy lifestyle?
Take it slow. Don't compare yourself to when you was a kid, because a lot of times people compare themselves. Like I did it. I compare myself to, like, oh man, I can't bench or run that far anymore, so I'm not going to do nothing. Well, that's a foolish way to think. Don't compare yourself to where you were. Just talk about where you want to get to. And then when you focus on where you want to get to, that'll give you motivation to get up and do something. Where do you want to be? How do you see yourself? Make obtainable goals. You see what I'm saying? Don't just go cold turkey. Well, I'm not eating meat no more. Boom, that's it. Well, first time you smell a rib, you just gonna go in remission. I mean, you're gonna get off the diet quick. Don't say what you ain't gonna do. Make obtainable goals. Say, okay, I'm gonna do better portion size. I'm not going to drink that much. I'm going to try to exercise at least 3 times a week. Don't come out here and say, like these New Year people, New Year's is coming up. Hey, if people looking for all these New Year's resolution, people will say, I'm going to work out 7 days a week. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to go from 0 to 7. It don't work like that. Just make obtainable goals and find somebody to help you achieve those goals that's going to hold you accountable to those goals. And that's what we can help you do.
Which is something I need to do myself. And that's probably the mistake I made. I'm like, oh, man, okay, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. No, I don't have the time right now.
Right.
The 3 makes more sense than 5.
Right.
So I might have to.
And 3 makes a lot better sense than 0. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, 3 is better than 0.
So I might have to talk to you some more outside of the microphone to see if I can put something together. And kind of last question, Thanksgiving, it's the week of Thanksgiving. What are you most thankful for?
Oh man, you can't say one thing, and this is not just the clip, the cue card version, but I'm thankful for my family. I mean that seriously. I'm thankful for my parents. I can get teary-eyed talking about them, how they bless me more than you can imagine. I'm thankful for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who I put all my energy in, who I need to do better serving as well, and I'm the first to admit that. I'm thankful for people who have took time and downloaded information, time to make me a better man and who I am today. So there's so much that I'm thankful for.
Absolutely. And everybody who's tuning in from the Arkansas area, if this interview haven't motivate you to get in Conley Fitness, I don't know what else it will. Because if I was in Arkansas, I'd be signing up for a membership tomorrow. Like, no doubt.
I appreciate that. And we always got this tagline for everybody who's coming there. Remember, if you want something you never had, you have to do something you've never done. Remember always to train smart and live well.
There you go. Steve Conley, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tyler.